Jeff Passan thinks that the Cubs aren't desperate enough to pay Cody Bellinger. I mean, pay him 7 or 8 years, $200+ million, the ransom that Scott Boras has set. But he says that the Blue Jays are. We're going to talk about that. And a former Cy Young Award winner that would sign right now, he says, for the league minimum. And a guy that may still have some prime years left. All of that right here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Make sure that you guys like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Thank you for hanging out and getting in the comments section. Let's get this thing started. What do you say, everybody? Welcome to the Cubs Baseball channel. I'm Mick Gillispie, and it is a pleasure to talk some Cubs baseball with you guys tonight, as we try to do each and every day here on the Cubs Baseball channel. And I know it's kind of getting tiresome. You know, I mean, we talk a lot about what's going on in the world of Cody Bellinger, and the market is definitely right now being held up by Scott Boras, right? And, that's his right to do that as an agent. But I love to talk about this because eventually something's going to happen. And that's Scott Boras on there and Jeff Passan on ESPN 1000 in Chicago talking about the situation. And one of the things that he said is, I don't think that the desperation is necessarily there the same way that it is for the Blue Jays. And basically what he said was that the Cubs don't want to pay 7 or 8 years, $200 million plus for Cody Bellinger. And look, everyone would love to have Cody Bellinger back. And he did a great job a season ago. He was the comeback player of the year. He was the best player on the Cubs. But there's a lot of risk involved here. Up until 2019, he was one of the best players in the game. Then he went a couple seasons and wasn't that good. The production went way down. Then last year, he said he was healthy, looked healthy, fantastic season, did everything. I mean, on and off the field, at the plate, defensively, couldn't have asked for a better player. But if you're the Cubs, you don't want to give this guy 7 or 8 years, because what if he digresses? What if he gets injured again? What if all of a sudden, things go back the way that they were 2 years ago, right? And what Jeff Passan basically said is that he feels like if the deal was 4 or 5 years, that the Cubs would be a player, and that at 7 or 8 years, that they don't feel like they're in position where they have to do it. Which is also just kind of along those same lines. It's also strong negotiating by the Cubs if they really intend to sign Bellinger, to make Scott Boras think that they're not. And then, I mean, is that going to pay off? Some of you guys say, hey, you're playing chicken right now. This could backfire. And that's obviously a risk, that you take. I mean, anytime you make a deal, you take a risk of something not going right. But Cody Bellinger just feels like a great fit for the Cubs. But maybe this thing's not going to happen. I mean, we've heard in the last few days, Jesse Rogers on the same station, and actually on the same show on Waddle and Sylvie, great show. He said a few days ago that he feels like it's 51-49 that the Cubs will sign Bellinger. And he was just saying, hey, there's a track record that the Cubs don't like to deal with Boras. And then all of a sudden, then Jeff Passan says that he doesn't think that the Cubs are desperate enough to give him that kind of a deal. I don't know that. I just don't know who is that desperate right now. I mean, is it Toronto? Toronto's gone out and made a bunch of deals. They have some money to work with, but they've got a lot of young players that they're eventually going to want to sign. Bichette, Vlad Jr. I mean, and if you sign Bellinger for 7 or 8 years, it may make it more difficult to keep the young core of this team together. You know, it's not like you're talking about 4 years. You know, and some of those guys are, you know, still a few years away. The arbitration and everything else from, you know, from being able to test the waters of free agency or renegotiate a long-term deal or whatever. But at the same time, once you lock this guy in 7 or 8 years, that's 7 or 8 years from now. And if you have young players that you want to keep, you might not have the resources to do it. So with that said, the Blue Jays might feel like their window's closing and they need him. And so who knows? Now they went out, they signed Kiermaier. You know, they've done some stuff this offseason that would indicate to me that Bellinger isn't someone that they're going to give $200 million to over 7 or 8 years, but we'll find that out in the near future. The other thing that Jeff Passan said that I found very interesting is that he said that he thought that the Cubs were still going to sign a client of Scott Boras. So if that's the case, is it going to be Blake Snell? No. Is it going to be Jordan Montgomery? No. It's going to be Matt Chapman, because that's the client that, you know, obviously that these 4 teams or these 4 players are, you know, basically right now shopping and then haven't signed. So I'm guessing that the fit would be Matt Chapman, and then the Cubs could get him maybe on a 1-year deal, maybe 2, you know, depending on the market. But it doesn't feel like there's been this big market for Matt Chapman this year, just the same way that Cody Bellinger doesn't feel like, outside of the Cubs and a handful of other teams that feel like they're lukewarm on the interest level, that maybe the market's not there. But look, spring training pitchers and catchers report next week. So it's all coming together. A week from yesterday, they're going to be reporting. All right, talking pitchers and catchers. I just found this very interesting. Trevor Bauer put this on his X, which I still want to call Twitter. Blake Snell is going to get hundreds of millions of dollars on a multi-year deal, and he should. He deserves it. For a team that doesn't want to commit multi-years, hundreds of millions of dollars, or many elite prospects for a Cy Young award winner, they could sign me for league minimum and pay 0 incremental dollars over what they have to pay to that roster spot anyway. Just another option for teams that want to win and don't want to break the bank. All right. The guy was accused of something, and he proved that he didn't do anything wrong. But Major League Baseball is punishing him like he did. Now, with that said, and I know a lot of you guys have gotten into the comment section and you've talked about his personality flaws, and I'm not going to take up for those. And he definitely has been immature. But because he's immature doesn't mean that he couldn't help your team win. This is a guy that won the Cy Young. He's 83-69 in his big league career with a 3.79 ERA. Last year he pitched was in LA for the Dodgers. He was 8-5 before he was suspended with a 2.59 ERA in 17 games. I mean, this is what it comes down to is that the league has probably said, you're not signing him. And there's no George Steinbrenners out there that are going to throw up their middle finger at the league and say, you know what? You can't tell me that I can't sign the guy. He's not suspended, and he's going to help us win. And we're willing to do that. There's no rogue owners anymore. Like George Steinbrenner would be all over this. He would not care what the league said. And on top of that, it's league minimum. If the guy doesn't work out the door he goes. If you're worried about the impact on the clubhouse or whatever, if he doesn't follow the rules, then out he goes, and it doesn't even cost you anything. But it just feels like there's a lot more here than just, hey, we don't think the guy can pitch. This feels a lot like collusion. And it kind of has that same Colin Kaepernick smell to it where, forget the politics. There's another reason why the guy's not getting a job. Not anymore, but there was a time when Kaepernick took his team to the Super Bowl and he didn't get a job. Now, I'm not taking up for either one of these guys and what they did off the field. I'm just using it as a comparison because it is the same exact thing. And they're not getting an opportunity. This guy won a Cy Young Award. He just went over to Japan and did really well. And you're telling me you wouldn't sign him for the league minimum? Just throw that out there. You guys get in the comment section and tell me what you think. If I'm the Cubs, I need a right-handed starter. Hey, I'm doing it. And if the league doesn't like it, then so what? Because at the end of the day, I'm here to win championships. And if you add a guy like this, it gets you closer to winning a championship. We're more worried about this guy than we are a team that used technology to cheat and win the World Series, because none of those guys got punished. Think about that for a second. All right, look, that's where we are right now. We're keeping an eye on it. Don't think that because all the buzz is that Cody Bellinger and the Cubs are far apart, that it's not going to happen. I just disagree with all of this. I think that when you are in a high-stakes poker game like this, negotiations, you're putting the cards out there. You're trying to keep that poker face. Until Bellinger signs with a team that's not the Cubs, I still think he's coming back to the Cubs. I just wouldn't pay the guy 7 or 8 years, because I don't think in 7 or 8 years he's going to be a good player. I just don't. I think in 5 years, potentially could still be a good player. After that, you're talking about a guy that I don't have a lot of confidence the last 3 years of a 7 or 8 year deal are going to be that productive. We'll find out. So the Cubs are trying to play business. Boris, is going to try to suck every dollar he can get in this deal out. We've talked about that before. And it is what it is. So that's what we're talking about today. And if anything changes, obviously, we'll get on here and talk about it. Thanks, guys. Comment section, keep them coming. Thumbs up means go Cubs. Love the opinions. And hopefully we'll have something fun to report here sometime soon. Hey, also want to tell you that you guys know I just got back from the Tennessee Smokies team store. Picked up some new gear. You can do the same thing as well. They've got boxes of stuff coming in all the time. SmokiesBaseball.com/store for the latest gear. Thanks for hanging out. Go Cubs.